Welcome to Influence to Equity. Today we have the multi-talented and my really good friend, Dannella Lane. She's a professor, a speaker, an author, a life coach, a mentor. Did I miss anything?
Wow, that sounds like a lot.
An author.
Did you say
You
that?
are all of it. You are an author.
Uber driver for my kids?
Absolutely. Listen, chef.
Chef?
I can listen, house cleaner.
Studio teacher?
I'm so excited to have you here. One of the things that was important to me to have when it comes to my guests is super multi-talented, hyphenated, but also being realistic about the stories and the lives that we've lived. And so you had to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, currently.
I don't talk a lot about my personal life. You and I have had these conversations, but I was married, divorced, single mom. My divorce was finalized and a week later, I moved to LA on my own with no help, no family, the day before Thanksgiving in 2022. And as scary as it is, there's still, because I'm still living it, a beautiful part of the reinvention. And I wanted to have these conversations to make sure that we're inspiring folks on their journey, because we make entrepreneurship, we make being a founder, we make being a coach and an author, we make it look sexy on social media. And it looks so pretty and we wrap it up in a bow. And the reality is, it's effing not.
No. Yeah, it's not. And there's a lot of sweat and tears and equity that goes into it. And I want to apologize publicly if I make it look good, because it ain't.
Right.
But it's worth it. But
It
it's
is.
worth it.
So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, and where are you from? Because listen, I love you and I know where you're from, but
People need to know. Let's see. How far back in time do I want to go? I paid that meter up for an hour. Let's see.
Let's get it. I want all the tea, all of it.
So I'm originally from a small town in Mississippi called Terry. Population maybe 1,500,
Oh my gosh.
maybe, mostly predominantly senior citizens. And I grew up on a farm. My mother was an entrepreneur. She owned a salon. My dad worked a typical 9 to 5. He did most of the child raising.
Really?
Yeah, because
We
my
don't hear
mom
that.
worked 18 hours a day. My
Yeah.
mama was a hustler.
Oh, she was awesome.
She was in it. Thanksgiving, she was going to work till she was done, right? But growing up with my dad really as the primary head of the house and caretaker, my dad suffered from PTSD. And so I was raised in a somewhat violent household. I had 2 sisters. One, I was the baby. I learned quickly from their mistakes what not to do and what not to trigger my dad. Listen, I love my dad now. I was able to push through those things, but what that did was it led me to find, love like that. And so I felt like my ex-husband was my dad, just another version of him. And that's what we typically do. It's like, I'll let you abuse me, but not as much as I have before. And you do that kind of unconsciously. So I was married for 17 years, moved to Atlanta. We have 4 beautiful girls. They're the hungriest girls on the planet, but they're beautiful, talented, and honestly, what I would attribute my survival to. Whom? Those girls, right? Married for 17 years, found myself on the side of the bed one day, just kind of like, God, what in the heck is this?
Yeah.
What is happening? This is a lot, right? I'm working corporate America. I'm leaving corporate America and I open up my own salon. And so I feel like I'm just working endlessly.
Yeah.
I don't have time to see my children, but a lot of that was me actually kind of tucking in and working so that I don't have to go into my home.
Oof.
That was really if you've heard of this thing, I heard someone call it the garage syndrome. When you heard your garage door going up and you knew it was your spouse, you would have this anxiety. And so I knew if I was feeling that, my kids was feeling that too. But because I grew up in the Bible Belt, I was taught you're going to stay married, right? To death do us part. And there's no reason why you should divorce. Just deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if there's abuse mentally, physically, emotionally, verbally, none of that. You just deal with it. And so you get tough skin. But I knew that God had so much more for me and my girls. And the next part of my journey was just going to have to be taken without my then husband, a part of it. And so that was really hard for me to conceptualize because, again, I was taught, you stay. And I was married at 19. So I was really glued to this man, and I was sold on all of his ideas. I was a baby when we got married.
Right.
And listen, here's the thing. He was young too. I'm not upset. Forgiveness is how I got to this part of my life. But it did play a role in it. So I find myself on the side of the bed saying, hey, God, if this is now your portion for me, you're going to have to show up for me and show me who you are. Not for my mama, not for my grandmama, and not for my ex-husband. I've known you through all of these people. Now I got to know you for myself. And I began to just pray and ask for fresh fire and fresh wind. And listen, I'm a church girl. My grandmother was an evangelist. I knew God, but I knew him through everybody else.
Yep.
And so God began to take me on a journey of knowing him. He first gave me, I call my anchor scriptures, Philippians 4:6. It says, don't worry about anything. Pray about everything. Through prayer and petition, make your requests known.
Yeah.
And he gave me that to meditate on. And I'm like, my money is funny. It ain't even laughing though. You know what I mean? I'm struggling. I'm scared. This is a new area. It's tough. Like, God, what am I supposed to be doing? These kids are looking at me like, you know, right? You got all the answers.
And meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
no
I'm like,
idea.
no, I'm just as scared as y'all are.
Right.
But because I'm the adult, I'm your mom, I have to make something work.
Right.
So I'm in the background like, God, make something shake. Let's be real. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Show up. And so I'm taking the girls to school one day, and a baby girl gets in the car and she wants to tell me about this experience she had with this little boy. He's in kindergarten, she's in kindergarten. And it's so funny how kids pay attention to what you say and what you're doing, not even knowing that they're hearing the conversations between their dad and I as we're going through the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Because you understand, divorce isn't just between you
Correct.
and the father,
Correct.
right? The entire family, even the dog is divorced. Everybody is divorced.
Everybody.
Literally. And so they're paying attention. And I remember the baby girl saying, Mama, this boy likes me. And then he told me he didn't like me because he wanted another girl, right? He wanted a fourth grader. Mind you, it was a similar situation because their dad had cheated, right? And so she's like finding herself in this kind of drama. I'm like, you in kindergarten. And she goes, but I told him that I wouldn't take him back. So the next day he comes to school and he has a bracelet. And I told him, I take the bracelet, but I won't take you, right? And so the video I'm trying to send to a friend. This is how intentional God is about our life. I'm sending this video to a friend on Instagram, and I accidentally post it. Close my phone. I get the girls. We go to my salon because I'm about to go to work, and my phone is just buzzing off the hook, and I'm looking at it like, what's going on? It's Instagram. I've never seen this. Well, the girls' video made it to the Shade Room somehow, and they go viral.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not talking about a little viral. I mean, like, and usually the time span of a viral video is about 15 minutes, right? Until they post the next thing. These girls, this video went viral for weeks. It ended up on the Today Show. It ended up on the Steve Harvey Show. And it just started to make its tour. And I was like, fresh wind? Is this that thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're just minding our business and going about our life. And one of my clients, an older lady, she says, baby, your life is about to change. She knows nothing about social media, right? She knows nothing about the post. She goes, your life is about to change. And this is going to be the last time you do my hair. And I was like, nah, this is my money. This is how I'm taking care of my family. She was like, no, your life is going to change. She was like, just trust me. And she said, whatever you do, learn forgiveness for whomever. Learn forgiveness. It's going to take you a long way. So a couple of months later, we're in the car and I'm taking the girls to school, and the middle girl, well, my then 6-year-old Danny, she goes, Mama, we're living in Atlanta. It's so much stress out here. Y'all grown people, y'all stress so much. Y'all just need to call Jesus. The baby girl goes, yeah, don't call Tyrone. Call Jesus.
No, ma'am.
And if your boyfriend break up with you, she's still mad about this boy. And if your boyfriend breaks up with you, call Jesus. That was their second viral video. And this time it goes even further. Not just nationwide, it's worldwide. We come to Hollywood. The girls tell me, I want to be on TV.
Oh.
And I said, oh, okay. Well, if it was that easy, everybody and their mama would be on TV. She's like, well, I'm just going to pray about it. Since you don't seem to be in alignment, I'm just going to pray about it.
Oh, she said faith.
She said faith. So she taught me something. I said, okay. So sure enough, Hollywood starts to beckon for them. as Hollywood is beckoning for them, my clientele is dwindling. So on one
Ooh.
end, I'm being hard pressed.
Yep.
Right? On one end, I'm being stretched because this is my bread and butter. This is how I'm taking care of my family.
Uh-huh.
This is like, God, what you doing? I said fresh fire. I didn't know I was going to have to go through a drought.
What's that one gospel song where they're like, what is that song? I want to be tried.
Yeah,
I don't
sing
pray
that
that.
one out loud.
I don't sing that.
I used
I
to
don't-
sing that.
Nope.
As a matter of fact, it came on my playlist this morning and I said,
Skip. Don't try me. I'm sorry. I just have to tell y'all, be careful with your prayers. I don't ask for patience, grace, forgiveness, unconditional. I don't pray for none of that. Because
It's
the
not
way that
gonna
God
look
sends to me,
like you thought, right?
Lord, I want peace. I didn't ask for the chaos to get me to the peace. Can I just get to the
He
peace?
uses that chaos though.
I know, but I didn't need that.
He uses it and it's necessary.
Yeah.
But on one end, I'm being because this is how God operates with me. When he wants me to move, because he knows I can get very comfortable, I say he will put 2 feet on my back and push me out.
Oh, he don't have a choice. He literally kicking me out the door.
He did it in corporate America.
Same.
He used the most rudest, felt like heartless way
Same.
to kick me out of corporate America. It was rude. It was insensitive.
Yeah.
It was hurtful.
Mhm.
And he made it sting enough that I'll never go back. My salon, having it full time was it was an answered prayer, right? I said, God, I want to be able to, if I'm a single mom, I want to be able to be at track meets and I want to be at the game so I can watch my baby cheer. I want to be a very present mom. And so when I got my salon and it was booming, it was an answered prayer.
Yeah.
And so you're telling me I got to leave it now? My clientele is dwindling because okay, fine. God literally started to open up avenues. I got a call from a friend, was like, hey, I'm out here in LA. Would you and the girls like to come and stay for a little bit because I'm going to be doing some traveling? And I was like, okay, cool. We'll get there, right? It's a 32-hour drive. And if you think that God doesn't use chaos, right? He will, because the enemy is trying to throw chaos at you. So I packed the girls up and we're getting ready to head out. And I get a phone call from my mom that my grandmother had passed away. So on my drive from Atlanta to Mississippi, I have to stop and bury my grandmother. My grandmother is who taught me about Jesus. So now I'm confused because the matriarch of our family, the person that taught me faith, is this a sign, God, that you don't want me to go? Right? And so I stopped. We buried my grandmother. And I didn't even tell my family that I was taking the girls to Hollywood because I was decided. I told the girls, I said, listen, we're going to step out on faith. Y'all are my business partners. We're doing this together. We're going to get it out the mud together. If y'all are in agreement, I don't need you to trust me. I need y'all to trust God.
Trust God, baby.
And we were in agreement when we stopped in Mississippi to bury my grandmother. I told my dad then, I said, Dad, I'm going to take the girls to Hollywood. And his response was, that nasty, dirty city. You don't have any money. What are you going to do out there? And I said, well, one of my friends told me I can come stay for a little bit. And I don't know. We're just going to trust God. Now, mind you, I knew nothing. I didn't know that you needed headshots. I didn't know you needed an agent. I didn't know you needed any of these things. I just knew God
was be there.
And God was going to make it happen. Those girls believed it. And my dad was like, all right, Dannella, well, just do what you do. $5,000 to my name, 4 kids and a dog in a vehicle. We drive all the way here. We get here. And the first week I'm here, I'm just like, okay, all right, God.
Now what?
Now what? Now what? I get the girls together. We make a vision board and we put everything that we're believing God for, what we want, right? We don't know how this Hollywood thing goes, but we're just writing down what we want. And I put it in the closet and I'm in there daily praying and trusting God. There's a song by Jacqueline Carr that says, you will win. Everything attached to me wins, right? And that was what I would profess over me and the girls. And I get a call to meet this agency that, fast forward when I'm cleaning out my closet, or rewind a little bit, 20 years ago, it was the agency when I was modeling as a kid. That was at the bottom of my list that I wanted. I circled. That was the agency I wanted. It was like my dream agency. But anyway, I get a call from the agency. They want to meet the girls. We go, and as we're walking out, they say, hey, Kenan Thompson is auditioning. He's been auditioning now since September for a role for twins to play his daughters in this new show that he has. And I was like, oh, okay, when is the audition? And they said, tomorrow. And I said, oh, okay. Oh,
Okay.
right. Well, we can do this. The only problem is Dana Russ, my baby girl at the time, she couldn't read. And so she was learning to read. And so we would have to feed her the lines.
Hmm.
Now, they don't give you just baby lines. There were paragraphs for
Correct.
these kids. And so me and the older girls, I have 4 daughters, by the way, 22, 20, 12, and 13. Got up that next morning, dressed my babies up. Didn't know you need a headshot. Didn't know you need a resume. Didn't know you need anything but Jesus,
Right.
right? Walked them into the audition. They went in. You know, the moms out there just kind of like, yeah, my kid was out here before and they're going to get the role. I didn't know anything. I was like, really?
It's an ignorance be bliss, though. In
Right,
Hollywood, it is
right. I was
bliss.
like, man, just didn't know anything. So we get back in the car and I say, well, how did y'all do? And Danny goes, well, we did our best. And so we're going to let God do the rest.
I
I
know,
said, well,
that's right.
period. Right? 3 months go by. We don't hear anything. And then one day we get a call. The girls got the part.
Really?
Girls got the part. And that was our beginning stages of being here.
Hmm.
So long story short.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to take it back a little bit because, and I told my producers and my team, I'm going to try not to cry through this episode.
Me too.
But I think back to where I was, and I'm already failing because my voice is getting quivery. I think back to where I was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, even a year ago. And it is such a scary transition to go from being married to on my own to because there's nowhere to go, right? There's no safety net. There's no one who's going to save me here. And I am a PK, so same thing. I've had my own relationship with Christ and my own relationship with Jesus, but a lot of it happened through my parents and through my family and through my background. And so I remember I went through the best part of my career while simultaneously drowning and feeling like I was failing and going through the worst parts of my personal life while being on the internet every day and while being on TV almost every day. And it's like, Lord, I didn't sign up for this war. Listen, God's strongest warriors, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
And so my anchor prayer for me was Jeremiah 29:11. And so I'm like, I need you to continually show up. And I get the whole faith of a mustard seed. But right now, I need you to show up. And I don't know where I'm supposed to go or how this is, supposed to be. And I tried to move to like several different cities like Houston, Atlanta, Nashville. And I fought moving to LA.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, I'm a single mom. There's no way I can afford to live there. How do I provide for these children? And while also knowing that I have a purpose in my business, I know that I have a purpose in as a founder, knowing that I have a purpose as a woman, and trying to navigate also who I am as I'm being renewed and reinvented, while also having a team that I have to show up for daily and my kids, and I have a child with special needs. And so I think back to that moment of being so broken. And I hope it's okay that I ask you, take me back to, I think you said broken.
Broke and broken.
What did that feel like? And where the heck do you find the strength to get out of it and reinvent when really your back's up against the wall and there's nowhere to go?
Yeah. It's interesting because to be broken, well, all I have are these little pieces, right? It's just a crumble. I think about the wall of Jericho, right?
Yeah.
Just crumbling. But even in the wall of Jericho, that was beautiful, right? Because on the other side of that crumbling wall was where the fortress and all the goods were. And so I found peace in the brokenness, and I found peace in being broke, honestly, because my rescue was, can't get worse than this. You're at the bottom of it. If this is my lowest and this is the worst, then it's only up from here.
Yeah.
I have no other choice but to go up. And honestly, this is when it got real personal between me and God. And it was like, he's like, well, test me to see if I'm good. Test me to see if I won't give you a blessing. I'm like, well, God, I'm testing you. If you are who your word says you are, if you're who my grandmama said, my mama said, everybody else says, then show yourself to me.
Yeah.
And he's like, gladly, Dannella, gladly. But what I need you to do first is I need you to show up for yourself every day. And that meant that even when I was broke with no money, even when I was broken, my heart was broken, I felt like emotionally, mentally, I was broken. I've had to unlearn a lot of things that I was indoctrinated with. God was like, just show up. Just be present. And I need you to start speaking to yourself a certain way.
Mm.
I need you to start downloading in yourself a certain type of sound, a certain voice, because what's going to happen is now you're going to be challenged with all the negative, all the naysayers, all the things that will come up against my word. And how you combat that is you got to have a certain sound, certain words downloaded, right?
Yeah.
Into that subconscious that Holy Spirit has to speak. And so I do something called I am enough, right? I am sophisticated. I am powerful. I am wise. I talk to myself so good now. My friends say, girl, you so prideful. I said, but it's not pride in myself.
Mm-mm.
I'm really confident in my God.
Mm.
He ain't got no other choice but to show up.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Currently, today at, what time is it? 11, whatever time.
Right.
It's scary.
It is.
Because I'm still a single mama. I'm still reinventing myself. I'm still finding my footing.
Yep.
It's scary
Yeah.
in real time. But my faith, my resolve at the end of the day is my source is God.
Yeah.
He got to show up.
I heard this thing recently that said the areas of your, and for me, in full transparency, there's one area of my life that I worry. One. It's only the one. And I heard this thing that said the area of your life where you worry the most is where you trust God the least. And when I tell you, it hit me so hard, I was like, okay, God, then I surrender. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I surrender.
Yeah.
When it comes to the business, my personal life, I surrender. These kids, I was holding on so tight that he's like, you don't even own them. That business that you have, you don't even own it. It's mine. I gave it to you.
Yeah.
And so it's like releasing and relinquishing the kind of control that I thought or I want to have, that I think I should have. I do want to switch gears a little bit or kind of shift a little more, because what I find really interesting about your story and how I was introduced to you was through a mutual friend, Joanna Alba, which, hey, shout out, Joanna.
Hey, girl.
Joanna says to me, one day I was struggling, and she says to me, hey, one of my girlfriends at 8 a.m. every day, she goes live. She has Bible study. I'm like, okay. And at first I was like, it's a little random, but okay. And I get on there and you blessed my entire soul. What made you decide to get on social media and start doing those studies in the morning? Because it was no longer it wasn't about business anymore. It wasn't about life coaching or being an author anymore. There had to be a purpose, and you do them consistently every morning.
Yeah.
How did it start and why?
So last year, I found myself going through, I don't know, I guess another tough season, right? Because they come. And at this point of my life, I felt like my identity was being questioned. My ability to stay consistent was being questioned. And just my will, just wanting to get up and do something. Because what happened was when we moved out here, the girls had a show, and then last year the show got canceled. And so it felt like, oh my gosh, this again, like I came out here for this. And so I went through this whole woe is me period where I was crying a river and just sulking. And God was like, get up. And I was like, and do what? And do what, right? I had no discipline. The girls are homeschooled, so I was making sure that they were doing their part. And honestly, I probably was going through a depression. I remember going into my older daughter's room saying, what does seasonal depression look like? Is that a such thing? Is that real? She was like, yeah,
Yes.
Ma, it really is. And I'm like, but I'm going to therapy. How can that be? She was like, yeah, it really is. And so I found myself talking to my therapist. I found myself praying more. And in that prayer, God was like, yep, so I'm going to create something. I'm going to show you that you have something inside of you. You keep asking for these God ideas, and it's going to be a lesson for you more than it is for people. Because when I first started them, it was like 5 people. It's like, why am I showing up for 5 people, God? Like, what is this, right? And then it started to increase. But then God said, get out of the number. It doesn't even matter about how many people are showing up. That's not the point. This is really going to be a life lesson for you. It's going to show you that you are disciplined. It's going to show you that you do have what it takes. It's going to show you that you are enough. And it's going to show you that all the wisdom that you have, that I've given you, and all of the testimonies and all of the trials and tribulations were not in vain. It's going to help somebody else. right? Because you have to understand what we go through is never for us.
Mm.
You got to not be stuck on yourself that much to think that what you're going through is just about you.
Right.
It's not. There's a scripture in the Bible. My oldest daughter, she loves it because she said, the Bible's funny. God's so funny. He said, if you think that you're all that, like, don't think so highly of yourself, right? It's not about me. Divorce is not just about me.
Mm-mm.
Surely there's somebody else that will benefit from knowing that, hey, you can make it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Right? Going through having literally 27 cents or negative bank account, and you have people that are dependent on you. It's not just about you, Dannella. Somebody has to see that God is provider.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what class was about. And through this entire journey, it's been like a year straight. I'm sorry. It's been like a year straight almost. And we've done character development, right? God has taught us stewardship, how to be good stewards over our time, our business, our relationships, our money, our body, right? How to not take things personal.
That part.
He's taught us faith. He's taught us that what we do for someone else, what we make happen for someone else, he will make happen for you.
Yeah.
So I told you, I'm very transparent. And even if I don't want to be, God will make me have these transparent moments. August 15th, my mom took her last breath. I got the phone call while I was on class, live. Yeah. It was hundreds of people in class on all platforms. And I had just left Mississippi, just flown back that next day. And my sister called me and she said, I could tell by the tone. I answered the phone because it was my sister. And she said, Dannella, and I knew what it was. And I turned around and all of class was, but God is so intentional. Everybody in class was just kind of like helping me through the moment and being present. I'm sorry.
Oh, please.
And even in that moment, God was like, somebody's lost somebody too. And they'll need to know. It's not brushing it under the rug. You're showing people how you still have to persevere. Tough stuff happens. Life happens. You still have to keep going. Yeah. And so class has been like a gift for all of us. It really has. It's a blessing.
I remember watching your lives in the morning and after your mom passed, and I was like, I don't know how she's doing it. Because I had just lost my best friend a year prior, and I could not figure out how to grieve.
Yeah.
Or how to navigate my grief. And I struggled for months. Honestly, I have no idea how you did it. I thank God for having a great team. It was a solid 5 months where I was on the internet every day, but I really wasn't on the internet every day. And I just couldn't figure out how to be present and who I needed to be for anyone. I was probably not a good mom. I was not a good businesswoman. I was not a good CEO. I just could not function in my grief and watching you navigate it and then mothered through it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all God. It's interesting. One of my friends told me this was like, it had nothing to do with my mom, but she told me, Dannella, start writing 10 things that you're grateful for down, right? And God is so generous and he's so, again, I can't help but to say how intentional and how compassionate he is. And he prepared us. Like, my mom is so funny. She wrote a letter, and in her letter that she wrote to us with details on what she wanted us to do after her passing, she said, I know you guys don't want to hear this, but I left a long time ago to be with my father. What y'all are witnessing is just me doing angelic work at this point, because my mom started to, when she was diagnosed with cancer about 8 years ago, she just started to send out these inspirational messages every morning. It started off with maybe 3 or 4 people, then it amassed to over 1,700 people. Like, she was sending so many. AT&T was like, we're going to turn this phone off, okay? Because she is like using way too much data. But when we had her memorial, people were coming up saying, Miss Sandy saved my life. I was suicidal, and that text message saved me. I didn't know how to struggle, or I was struggling through an addiction. I didn't have my mom, and Miss Sandy became my mom. And when you realize that your mother was like at the center of all of these people's like why they're still here story, you realize that she couldn't just be for you. She had to be an angel, right? And so part of that is what helped me through it. But when I began to write those 10 things down, I remember sitting beside her bed in the ICU, and it was her birthday. And I was like, I'm grateful for my mama. I'm grateful for this cup of coffee. I'm grateful that she's smiling. I'm grateful that I have this opportunity to be with her. And so when she transitioned, I'm still working on how I want to say it, right? I say she blew this popsicle stand, right? She was like, yeah, I'm out of here, right? I can go back and reflect on that space I was in during those days. And I was like, I was in a good space. I had the time with my mama, right? I was grateful for a cup of coffee this day, right? I was really pleased and I was really happy, and she was too. And this is what really did it for me. The last thing I heard my mama say was, I love you, Dannella. God is good. She closed her eyes and she was done. That was the last breath. That was it. God is good. God is good. Wait, so I'm struggling through financial woes, or I'm struggling through a breakup, or I'm struggling through, right, this sickness, or I'm whatever it is. Someone on their deathbed and their last word is, God is good. I'm still trying to fathom that. Grief looks different, but I have so many moments, so many nuggets that I can take with me. And on my best days, I can remember God is good. And on my worst days, I can remember God is good. My mama, who was looking face to face with them, said God was good. Gets no better than that.
No. I hate to shift gears, but I'm about to. You've dealt with so much life, and obviously this podcast is called Influence to Equity. And so we're watching how your influence in your life has influenced your girls and then influenced so many of us on social media, and your mom's influence as well. What part of your life story then led you or made you decide, I'm going to go be a life coach, or I'm going to impart wisdom into people because life is messy, especially as entrepreneurs? Sometimes, like for me, full transparency, I have a life coach. I have a therapist. I go to therapy every week. The reality is too, like sometimes we as entrepreneurs, we don't need a coach, like a business coach. We need a life coach. Sometimes you don't need a business coach. You need a therapist, sis. And when those don't work, you also need Jesus. It's a lot. Like my brain never stops. And my personal life, or the aspects of my character and the things that I've dealt with in my experience and trauma and navigating my personal life, is very important to how I navigate my business life and how I operate with other entrepreneurs. Because also I have to have grace. Like I'm dealing with founders. I'm in the investment space. I'm in VC. There are just so many places where I'm dealing with people.
Yeah.
And sometimes their responses have more to do with what they're dealing with in their personal lives, because they don't have a life coach. They don't have just someone that they can talk to. They're not in therapy. What made you decide this is the route that I'm going to take? Because that's where your equity, not only with your girls, which I would love to dive into, but then also equity into your business.
Just that, exactly what you said. And also, just to dial back to what I said earlier, we don't go through what we go through for ourselves. It would be robbing you, the conversation that we had. If I didn't share how God got me through it, it would be doing a disservice to him and robbing you. I don't think that I have it all together, right? I'm not professing that I'm like the best, but I know that my story started one way. I got it out the mud. I was led by God. And this is how I was able to get through. And that's a story worth sharing. That's wisdom that's worth imparting on someone else. And if you ask me, I have a responsibility to share it with you. There's a need in the community. Listen, I believe in therapy and Jesus. I also believe that there is someone that should coach you through your life. Right? I believe that there's certain aspects of life that you just need someone to say, hey, this is a better way to do that. Or, hey, you have it. Hey, don't give up. Show up for yourself. Let's take a moment. Let's breathe in this moment, right? Let's peel back. Okay, you're showing 10-year-old you is raising your kid right now. 10-year-old you is showing up in your marriage right now. And let's deal with that. right? And so I have a responsibility.
It's funny now that I've, goodness, this has been 2, 3 years in 3 years of like having my own personal coach, and then, um, being in therapy for a while, which started because of my divorce and because I didn't want to bleed on my children in
Mm,
the midst of what I was dealing with. And what I find
that's
interesting,
interesting.
right? I didn't want to bleed on them because I was hurting, and I didn't want to also bleed on my business partners because I was hurting. I saw an interview recently, and this has happened in my experience, but I couldn't show that kind of grace because I just didn't understand sometimes how a founder responds to my tone or how they respond to a situation or conflict. Like, I don't struggle with conflict. I don't like it, but I don't mind it because if you want to bring it on, bring it on.
Yeah.
I've had to show grace because how they are responding is based on trauma or whatever they're dealing with in their life or whatever they have not dealt with in their
Sure.
past that is manifesting itself and mirroring itself in their business.
Yeah. And they're projecting.
Yep.
80% of us, and that may be like a very nice number
Mhm.
of us are projecting daily. Business relationships, personal relationships with your children, you're projecting. And you just have to have someone to say, hey, you projecting. You know who does that for me?
Mm.
My children.
Really. They are a mirror, the ultimate mirror.
You're projecting, mama.
Mm.
20-year-old, she'll be 21 soon. That's my star child, and everyone will get an opportunity to understand why. I love Dayla. She keeps me on my knees the most, right? And she says to me, sometimes this is like Bad Girls Club.
Oh.
Our house feels like Bad Girls Club. It feels like you're a teen mom. I said, don't forget I was.
Mm-mm.
I was 19.
Ouch.
Give me some grace.
Yeah.
Right? Some of these things we're learning together. We were old enough to start dating at the same time. When she started dating, I was being reintroduced back into the world of dating. So some of these things I'm learning as I go. So she'll tell me, Mama, you're projecting. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll fix it. Also give me some grace because although I'm your mother and I'm older and I'm supposed to be wiser, some of these things it's new water that I'm treading. It's new water, new territory.
Yeah. What are some things that we can do as a founder, as a woman of color, as a mother to a nonverbal autistic son who's also running multiple businesses? What are some ways that I can operate better in my business, but also understanding that I need to be better in my personal life? Like,
Yeah.
what are some tools that we can use?
Breathe first. It's so funny. That's so important. I got it tattooed on my hand.
Mm.
Right? To breathe. It's a reminder because we don't do it. We're so quick to respond. We're so quick to get to it. We're so quick to just be immediate for everything and everybody that we don't take a pause. Feel like, well, we don't have time. Somebody's waiting on me. I need to be present. But if you can't breathe and if you can't be present for yourself, then you're not just pouring from an empty cup, you're pouring from a desert. And then you'll start to crumble. Breathe. Take time for yourself. The next thing I would do is find meditation. Really. Meditate. And the way I use meditation is I use scripture or I use what's pleasing to me. Danny, my now 13-year-old, when she was younger, she used to deal with a lot of anxiety. She would kind of lash out, and a lot of it was how she was taught to communicate at home between her dad and I. And so what I would do with her to help her navigate that is I would tell her, come on, let's take a mini vacation. So we would go and lay down, and I would say, close your eyes. Let's go on a vacation. Where do you want to go? She would pick someplace. I said, let's take a hot air balloon to go there, right? And then we would visualize. And I would say, okay, what do you see? Right? Can you see if we were over the beach, can you see the water? Can you smell it? Right? Can you feel the wind? It's important. After about 20 minutes of that, and I would say, okay, you done? You feel better? Yeah, Mama. I forgot. It's not that she forgot what she was dealing with, right, but she realized that if I just take a moment and I pause, if I breathe, if I use meditation, if I visualize a better scenario, then I can see my way to the end. I'm not so quick to make an immediate response or take immediate action that I'll regret. Right. I don't want to bleed on someone. I don't want to project.
I had just mentioned, so I was watching an interview with a founder, And he'd gotten a text message in the middle of the night from a partner that they were working with. And this particular gentleman had only just sent the message so that he didn't forget in the middle of the night. That was it. There was no tone. There was no intent. It was not malicious at all. Sends a message in the middle of the night. Turns out this founder had issues at home, had just got into a fight with his partner, and had a couple drinks because it's the middle of the night, and goes off on this particular person. It was a conversation that they should not have had at that particular hour. And if you are an entrepreneur, you know we do not sleep. We are up 24/7. We're consistently working. And I can't tell you, even myself, I've made some mistakes by saying things that I did not mean because I read something wrong or I heard the tone wrong because I didn't breathe. I didn't stop to think about what this person was saying. And honestly, it didn't even require a response in that moment. I should have left it alone. And what happened with this particular case with these two folks is it ended up destroying their partnership.
Yeah.
We just do not take the time to slow down.
We don't. And life is meant to experience, right? It's these building blocks. It's these tiny moments. We're in such a rush that we think if we just get it done, then we'll be satisfied. But you don't realize that it's in the journey. I know it sounds so cliche. I know everyone says it's the climb, but it truly is. It's in those moments where I get to breathe. I get to pause for a minute. I get to look around the room. I get to, remember her face and remember his face and remember how beautiful this is. It's in those moments that you will then learn to incorporate breathing and pausing even while you're busy. Because I'm having a conversation with you, but I'm taking it in because I've mastered the moments because it's the journey. Yeah. It's not just getting to where we got to go.
I had not intended on asking you questions about Hollywood, but we do live in LA, and even that part of my career is changing. And, I also had Cheval on, who was a bridal designer who lost the rights to her name, and so much had happened, bad contracts, and she was young, excited, did not have legal check or contract. And so, I think about that now as you were navigating the girl's career early on, and then even as I'm navigating my own. How do you make sure that the girls keep ownership of themselves, their names, perpetuity, the contracts, equity in themselves? Because also I think in Hollywood, we don't realize I am my asset. The girls are their asset. How do you make sure that you keep them in line?
Because I breathe, I take a pause, and I'm not anxious to sign anything. There's so many good deals. Yeah. I mean, like $1 million deals that I've said no to. Because I'm not just eager. You have to understand, my daughters and I had an agreement with God. We were going to come out here to do his business, not the world's business. And so because of that, I'm not anxious just to sign a deal, just to get our face out there, right? I'm excited about it. I will turn something down if it doesn't feel good. I taught the girls early on, they were 5 and 6, and they were in board meetings with the head of Nickelodeon, with the studios. And I said, well, this is your contract, and this is how you read it. If this sounds like, do you want to do this? Does it sound bad? Then we're not going to do it. And the moment that this is no longer fun, we don't do it anymore. Because Hollywood isn't our source. God is. He'll open up more doors, more avenues. So I'm just not anxious to just sign a deal. I'm going to look at it. And if it feels good, if I've prayed about it and God has opened up that opportunity, then great.
Now to the fun stuff.
Now to the fun stuff.
Now to the fun stuff. So, of course,
are you about to ask me about this engagement?
I am, because I've been staring at the ring.
I said this engagement?
Yes, I've been staring at it. Looking at it from the outside. I don't like when people say goals or any of that stuff, but like looking at it on the outside and from social media, it seems like a fairy tale. And I know that relationships aren't perfect and that, we are navigating two human beings. Yeah. But it's been such a beautiful journey to watch your joy and happiness. And listen, that Beyonce story when we were on the Sharon Shepherd show had me
I was so
weak.
serious. I was a little mad about my moment.
You ruined the moment.
Girl, I thought me and Beyonce had something going on. I thought I was going to be a backup dancer or something. Thought she was going to take me on the road like she did Blue Ivy.
Right? I thought it was me.
Right.
I'm the master of the show. I'm the star of the show.
Yeah, no.
Not him ruining it, though. Can you talk about the role that your relationship has played in your journey? And I have a reason for asking it. I've noticed, especially in what we do in Hollywood as a founder, like I just said, the story of this particular founder who had just gone into an argument with his partner. Our personal lives shape us
Mhm.
and how we operate in our businesses. Can you talk about what role your relationship has played in your journey up until this point?
You know what's beautiful about this is so Rel and I understand that we're two very individual people who have decided to partner in life and move forward. And so his business and his work and his creativity is just that, and mine is just that. At some point, we will figure out how we will merge the two.
Right.
But at this point, we are very much building and navigating our lives, and our relationship actually has nothing to do with Hollywood at all.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with where we are, who we are, or how anything has changed. It's only made it better.
So with that being said, find a partner who fits into your life, who
Yeah.
can integrate into your life, still being able to be two different people. One last question. What message do you have for anyone looking at life right now and feeling like they might be at the end of their rope?
You're not. Keep showing up for yourself. Just keep showing up and have faith. You have to, the importance of faith and hope is so that you have something to cling to.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, use your visualization, see yourself in the biggest, greatest way you possibly can, and believe in it. And don't move from that. It's not the end.
Oh my gosh, I love you. I could talk to you forever. Dannella, thank
No,
you so much for being here. How can people find you?
Social media, Dannella Lane, everywhere. Website is Dannella Lane, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Look me up, Google me, y'all, Dannella Lane.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.